Of all the eerie places around the world, and there are a lot, there's something extra spooky about haunted hotels. Maybe it's the influence of so many movies and TV shows, but things going bump in the night seem to be even, bumpier in a hall packed with sleeping strangers. Having said that, those same haunted hotels can also be extremely luxurious, with more than just urban legends to get your heart thumping. Whether they're castles in Ireland or top resorts from a Reader's Choice Awards, check out all these hotels that all have a little, extra spirit. The Omni Grove Park Inn, Asheville, North Carolina. This marvel of architecture was built on Sunset Mountain by Edwin Wiley Grove in 1913, a soda pop heir from Tennessee attempting to cure his chronic hiccups. One of the hotel's most famous guests was F. Scott Fitzgerald, who checked in while Zelda spent some time at a nearby sanitarium. You won't be running into any Fitzgeralds during your stay today, but you could catch a glimpse of another 1920s figure, the Pink Lady, a guest who met her end on the floor of the atrium after falling 2 floors from her room. The pastel mists you see and chills you feel will give her away. Fairmont Banff Springs Hotel, Alberta. Built in 1888 to encourage Western tourism to sell train tickets, this chateau-style hotel sits pretty by the Rocky Mountains in Banff National Park. But the Fairmont gets a tad more gothic once you get inside. And we aren't talking about the architecture. Several ghosts have been reported as regulars, including a bride who supposedly fell down the stone staircase during her wedding. But there's a less tragic spirit too. Sam the Bellman, who worked at the hotel until 1975 and claimed he'd come back to haunt the joint. His spirit supposedly pulls shifts helping people with their bags before disappearing. Bourbon Orleans Hotel, New Orleans. With a history dating back 300 years, New Orleans is a city with plenty of ghosts, many of them connected to hotels. The French Quarter's elegant Bourbon Orleans is one of the most famous haunted spots, thanks to its multi-purpose past as a ballroom, theater, and for many decades, a convent and orphanage. People say ghosts from different eras appear in the hallways or lobby, as well as one lonely dancer who spent some nights swaying under the ballroom's crystal chandelier. This year, the Bourbon Orleans is really embracing its ghostly reputation with some seasonal perks celebrating the iconic 1984 film Ghostbusters. On Halloween night, the movie's iconic Ectomobile will be parked outside the hotel for some spooky photo ops, and the in-house bar will serve a signature Slimer cocktail, a ghoulish take on an apple martini. Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, Los Angeles. You've never met ghosts as famous as the ones that haunt Hollywood Roosevelt. The first Academy Awards were held at this oft-filmed hotel back in 1929, and movie stars tended to live there for long stretches of time. Today, there have been reports that Marilyn Monroe's spirit hangs out in one room's mirror, while Montgomery Clift's voice echoes throughout his old suite. Even if you're not a fan of bygone film legends, you can still get goosebumps from the hotel's high-drama lobby and views of the Hollywood sign. Ruthin Castle Hotel and Spa, Wales. Situated next to the scenic Llwydian Range in North Wales, Ruthin Castle has had many renowned tenants since its 1277 construction, including King Henry VII and his daughter Mary, aka Bloody Mary. The castle was also briefly inhabited by Lady Jane Grey, Henry VII's great-granddaughter and so-called 9 Days Queen of England. Lady Jane was eventually executed for high treason in London in 1554, but her spirit is said to have wandered back to Ruthin Castle to wander the banquet hall and castle battlements. Even if you miss a run-in with a lady's ghost, you can still explore the castle's objectively creepy dungeons, whipping pit, and drowning pool. The Omni Mount Washington, New Hampshire. Like many of the hotels on this list, Mount Washington's Omni is a grand space with an even grander history. Built in 1902, the hotel has hosted some seriously noteworthy guests, including Thomas Edison and 3 US presidents. The Omni also has some clientele that's more notorious than noteworthy, like Carolyn Stickney, the widowed wife of the hotel's original owner who stuck around after her death. Her 4-poster bed still sits in one of the third-floor guest rooms, and guests have reported waking up to find Stickney brushing her hair at the foot of the bed. But let's face it, you'll be spending too much time on the hotel's sprawling porch. Seriously, it's one of the best we've seen to notice any flashes of paranormality. Parador de Jaen, Spain. Located in an 18th century Arab fortress overlooking the Andalusian landscape, Parador de Jaen has a few spooky stories hiding behind its imposing walls. According to the hotel's website, a guest in room 22 was rudely awakened one night by sounds of a woman crying and someone knocking on the door. A team of paranormal investigators was called in to check the room out in the 1980s, and they concluded that the room was in fact haunted by the spirit of a young woman who had died of heartbreak in the fortress several centuries ago. The room has been quiet since the investigation, but that's not the only ghost story around these parts. The hotel is also said to be haunted by the spirit of Terrible Lizard, the nickname of a prisoner who died of hunger while locked up in the fortress. Castle Leslie Estate, County Monaghan, Ireland. After staying at Castle Leslie Estate, former Deputy Digital Editor Laura Redman reported, "This castle was what you imagine of a 16th century Irish homestead. Red ivy snaking up the walls, deep copper tubs, a library stocked with first edition novels, afternoon tea overlooking 1,000 wooded and lake-spotted acres. Indeed, the secluded country hotel makes you feel like you're the only person in Ireland. Unless you run into a Leslie family member's ghost, of course. Luckily, all reported ghost sightings have been pleasant, like catching sight of Norman Leslie shuffling papers in the hotel's Red Room. Hey, with accommodations like these, we're more than willing to encounter a non-threatening ghost or two." The Queen Mary Hotel, Long Beach, California. Aside from a brief stint as a warship in World War II, the RMS Queen Mary served as a luxury ocean liner from 1936 to 1967. During that time, it was the site of at least one murder, a sailor being crushed to death by a door in the engine room, and drownings in the pool. The city of Long Beach purchased the ship in 1967 and turned it into a hotel, and it still serves that purpose today. Although the reported ghosts of the deceased passengers get to stay for free. For an extra dose of spine-tingling experiences, see if you can visit the ship's engine room, which is considered by many to be a hotbed of paranormal activity. The Driskill, Austin. The Driskill is a majestic Romanesque hotel with modern rooms and an iconic brick facade, drawing European tourists and wedding parties since 1886. It's a true Austin landmark, and according to some, a true hotspot for ghosts. Travelers have noted eerily abnormal sounds through its ornate corridors, as well as phantom sightings of the hotel's namesake, Jessie Driskill, whose portrait still hangs in the lobby. They say Driskill never recovered from the heartbreak of losing his hotel in a high-stakes poker game. And honestly, we get it. This hotel is a hard one to say goodbye to. Mizpah Hotel, Tonopah, Nevada. Mizpah Hotel opened in 1907 as one of Nevada's first luxury hotels, complete with solid granite walls and Victorian-era decor, and it was fully restored in 2011. But this wanky hotel has a history as blood red as its scarlet furnishings, one it proudly embraces. Legend has it that a woman who died on the 5th floor never really left the building. The lady in red now reportedly makes her presence known by whispering in men's ears and leaving pearls from her broken necklace on guests' pillows. The Mizpah plays up her reputation by letting visitors stay in the Lady in Red suite or order the Red Lady Bloody Mary at the hotel restaurant. Jekyll Island Club, Georgia. A hunting club for wealthy northerners in 1888, Jekyll Island Club was considered one of the most exclusive resorts in the world by the beginning of the 20th century. Members included such bigwigs as William Vanderbilt and William Rockefeller, and Jekyll Island Club was the site of the first transcontinental phone call to Alexander Graham Bell in 1915. Casual, right? Unfortunately, the resort fell upon hard times during the Great Depression and World War II, and eventually became a hotel in the 1980s. For the past few decades, Guests have reported encounters with some spirits as historic as the hotel itself. Railroad magnate Samuel Spencer has been spotted reading the Wall Street Journal, while others catch whiffs of JP Morgan's cigar smoke seeping out of the financier's former rooms. The Henderson Castle Inn, Kalamazoo, Michigan. Overlooking downtown Kalamazoo, the 1895 established Henderson Castle is as famous for its arsenal of ghost stories as its exquisite Queen Anne-style architecture. The 25-room house was the creation of Kalamazoo resident Frank Henderson, who spent the better part of a decade working with surveyors, engineers, and landscape architects to build his dream home. Sadly, he only got to live in the finished mansion for 4 years before passing away. That clearly wasn't enough time for old Frank. His ghost has reportedly been spotted in and around the property by several visitors. The Henderson Castle opened to the public in 2011, leaning into its history with ghost-themed cocktails at its Spirits Lounge and monthly murder mystery dinners.